little that it's really quite difficult to keep her in view, actually, compared to, of course, the big guys, which are pretty easy. Well, in some ways, and in other ways not so easy, which kind of is what my video is about. You know, the complexity that there is to keeping snakes. Of course, there's the simplicity side of them as well. Hi everybody. Well, I have my little Apani out this afternoon. She fed a couple of days ago. So yeah, she was due to come on out and have a little bit of time with me. Yeah, she's not a very demanding little girl yet, of course, because she's still a little girl. And she's ultimately going to end up, of course, demanding more time out eventually. So, but that doesn't mean she misses out on coming out either. So I'll kind of turn around a little bit, and maybe you know, she's so little that it's really quite difficult to keep her in view, actually. Compared to, of course, the big guys, which are pretty easy. Well, in some ways, and in other ways not so easy, which kind of is what my video is about. You know, the complexity that there is to keeping snakes. Of course, there's the simplicity, but you know, I think for people who are deciding to get their first snake, it is so complex when you start gathering information about them. It isn't like going and getting a puppy and bringing it home and having some food and a bowl of water and a bed for them to sleep in. I mean, really, in the reality of it, that is exactly what it is when you bring a pup home or a kitten. You might need kitty litter for the kitten. And puppy pads for your puppy. Of course, you can take them outside as well and get them toilet trained. But it's a little bit more complex when you decide that you want to have a snake in your life. And all the information that's out there, it's a lot. It is really a lot. And for me, you know, after several years, it's normal. You know, there's nothing really complex about it anymore. But for us people that have had them for several years, it's about remembering that there's people out there that are just starting and do not know. And it is difficult to know what is right, what's wrong, who's giving good information, who's giving bad information. And I think in lots of ways there's lots of good information out there these days about how to care for snakes. And we all do it differently. Well, we all do it differently. Well, we do. We all, the basics are the same, and I've said this before in terms of heating and the environment in which to keep your snake in. But it's how you're actually going to care for them. Is this going to be a snake that is just purely for breeding purposes? Well, it wouldn't be if it was your first snake. Is it going to be a snake that is just something to look at? Can we see a pony? I'm wondering whether we can, if I should get closer for you guys. That is going to be put into an enclosure or a tub and is brought out occasionally and looked at and fed, or is it going to become your pet? Something that you spend a lot of time with and develop. Sorry guys, I've got a bit of a in my throat. Yeah, going to become a companion to you. We all think differently. So I guess that goes about, is this complex or simple? If you're going to set them up, put them in an enclosure and feed them, it's pretty easy and simple, but you will often run into some things that will seem very complex. Why isn't my snake eating? Why is my snake doing a particular thing that it's never done before? Why is my snake acting like it is? Why is my snake always wanting to bite me all the time? My snake isn't drinking. My snake doesn't move a lot. You know, for us, we may understand all those different things, but for somebody that's new, they can be quite worrying. And so there is a lot of complexity, and now I can't even say the word, complex stuff with snakes. So I do say do research, ask a lot of questions if you're unsure, and ask specific questions about the species that you're actually going to decide to get as well, so that you do understand the variations on, you know, what one person thinks and what another person may think and so on, and take from it what you believe that really feels right. And there is a lot of misinformation out there about how to care for reptiles. Unfortunately, there is, and there's no getting away from that either. I wish that it didn't exist, but it does. You know, not all snakes, like, you know, you may have a coastal carpet python, for example, that likes hopping in their water bowl and soaking. You may get another coastal carpet python that never goes near the water, apart from to have a drink from it. But other than that, doesn't soak. But that doesn't make that there's anything wrong with your coastal carpet, because it doesn't like to soak in water, but your best friend's does, or somebody else's does. That doesn't mean there's anything wrong. You might have a snake that eats every 7 days, who's the same age, same size as whomever's, but your snake prefers to eat every 10 days or every 14 days. You know, it's not a given that that is how it is for your snake, because that person's snake is and does. I'm probably confusing you more with the way I'm explaining this than actually helping you out, but really, honestly, they are quite complex compared to a pup or a kitten. They truly are. Their needs are in some ways so much more and in other ways so much less. You do only have to feed them roughly once a week, whereas a dog you have to feed every day. Of course, you would freshen their water up every other day. If your snake isn't toilet trained such as my big guys are, then you have to have substrate or newspaper available to clean that out immediately, and keep their enclosures nice and clean. You have to make sure that their heating is what heat they need. You have to keep an eye on their humidity, because if you don't, they can become ill, and probably more so with a respiratory infection. You have to be aware of the illnesses that snakes can get, and what the signs of those illnesses are. And snakes are very good at hiding being ill too, so unfortunately sometimes by the time they let you know that something's wrong, they're really quite sick. You have to have all the right equipment. You have to have the right size enclosure. There's a lot of your own kind of thinking that goes with your snake, and what your snake is. You know, you can't bring a little guy home like Apani, and put her into a big size enclosure. She will need to go into a tub to begin with. So you've got to have a setup for this size, and then you've got to look at then upping the size of the enclosure as they grow. You have to make a decision on whether you're going to allow belly heat or basking heat. There's lots of decisions and choices that you will need to make for the best care of your snake. So I'm not saying to you that it's hard to care for snakes. I'm just saying there's a little bit more thought and a lot more information that you need to have before you go and actually get a snake. And you've got to think many years with your snake. You know, you have to know when to up the size of their feeder. Lots of things that after, like I said, many years of having snakes is just natural, and you kind of already know. But basically, when you're beginning, it is quite difficult, and you will second guess yourself. Should I, shouldn't I, is this okay, is this not okay? And never be afraid to reach out to people and ask them for some help if you're unsure about things. But try and gather as much information as you possibly can before you go and get your snake and bring it home. You know, I always think it's a good idea, make sure that you have everything set up for that snake before you do come home. Have the enclosure warm and ready for them, or that little tub nice and warm and ready for them as well, so that from the moment you bring them home, everything's ready to go, and you'll have a very, very happy snake. So guys, it seems complex, and I do agree, it is when you get your snake for the first time.
Excuse me, Nan. I'd like to say something about this you're talking about.
What?
It's very important when your snake wees or poos in the enclosure, so when they have the smell, you can just smell the enclosure once or 2 times, and you can feel out the areas or see the areas where they peed or pooped, and like
Clean it up.
And like a Apani poo, I cleaned up her enclosure just then, sprayed it with F10, and put all the stuff back inside.
So it is important, very important, to keep their enclosures clean, guys, to keep your snake nice and healthy. You don't want them laying around in their mess. It's not very pleasant for them at all. So guys, that's kind of it. It's not easy for new snake owners, first time snake owners. It is and will be very complex to you, but once you get to know your snake and you've had your snake for a while, it will get easier and easier. And then if you decide to get another one, it's even easier again, because you know exactly what you're doing. But I will say it's so important to ask questions, and don't be afraid to. It is better for you, to make you feel better about everything, and to have a nice, happy, healthy snake as well, because you're not on your own. There are lots of people out there that are just like you, starting out, have a multitude of questions they want to ask, and a lot don't. But please do read up, and don't just take the advice from one person. If it doesn't sound right, ask somebody else and find in the middle. You will figure it out, and if you watch your snake and get to know your snake, they'll tell you too what they like and they don't like. So, from my littlest snake at this present time, I'm going to say, take care of your snakes, love your snakes,